This week's edition of our Four Questions Journalist Spotlight is brought to you by Leff Atlanta Media, Atlanta's best journalist database. Subscribe at leffatlantamedia.com. Welcome to the next edition of our Four Questions Journalist Spotlight. We are talking today with Sammie Purcell, who's with Rough Draft. Good afternoon, Sammie. And can we hear you on the radio sometime or anything like that?
Yes, you can hear me on the radio.
There's, there's a
So
there's a leading question, right?
yeah, so I am on WABE Weekly with Mike Jordan. It's called How Do You Atlanta? And we're just kind of discussing what's going on in Atlanta that weekend. So if you're looking for something to do, if you have friends in town, or if you just need something to do that weekend, we will talk about all the different events that are going on in Atlanta.
That's Thursday mornings, right?
Yes, Thursday mornings and Thursday afternoons. Yeah.
Okay.
hmm
All right. Yeah, that's a good one. That's always a fun one to listen
Yeah.
to. So yeah, I find sometimes I actually hear it in the morning and but I feel like half the time I just find it on the podcast version or something and I
So I don't think
listen
we're
to it
doing
later.
the podcast version anymore. It's kind of
Okay.
gone back and forth, but I think they've stopped that for now. So if you want to listen to us, it's on the radio.
Gotta listen live. Okay. It's like
hmm
9:30, 9:45. Just
Yeah,
listen to WABE all
just
morning
turn it
on
on.
Thursday
Yeah.
and you'll hear Mike and Sammy
Yeah, it'll
eventually
come up.
talking about all the stuff.
hmm
Um, so let's jump to the what is often the hardest question I ask folks is what's something what's the coolest thing about Sammy that people might not know about? And it could be
Okay.
a talent or something you collect or something, anything.
So since my dad's a musician, and since I was 15, I've actually been in a band with my dad. That has a pretty big YouTube following. We're called Foxes and Fossils. It's a very silly name. But yeah, it's the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me. We have a pretty large YouTube following. You can find us there. It's probably a pretty easy search. But we're basically just a cover band, so we just do covers of kind of old and new songs, depending on who in the band is picking.
Do you perform live or is it just on
We
YouTube?
used to, but now we're pretty much just on YouTube. So my dad has a studio and we record there. We used to do live shows in the summers when I was in high school and college, but now everyone's so spread out, it's just a little difficult to get everyone together and make sure we rehearse enough to where it's good enough to be performed.
Was this an all family band or is it an all family band?
It's not all family, so it's me and my dad. We're obviously related, and then um, a lot of his bandmates from his former band back in the day, and then a couple of girls that are around my age. So that's Maggie and Chase. Maggie Adams. Actually, she might have a new last name now. She got married, but Maggie Adams and Chase Truran. So it's kind of a melding of generations, I guess you could say, is sort of the idea behind it.
So I am definitely going to find some video, some of your music and use that as background music for this podcast.
Sure.
Maybe that'll be my intro music as we start the podcast. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, right. So that's pretty cool. I'm definitely gonna have to go listen to that.
Check it out.
Um,
Yeah.
all right. So what is the last book that you've read? You talked about podcasts. Let's talk about last
hmm
book you've read.
So I'm gonna do the book that I'm currently reading because I'm almost done with it. It's
Okay.
very small. It's called Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. It takes place in Ireland in the 1980s. It's like 116 pages. It's really, really short. And it is sort of just a small tale about one man kind of discovering the evils of the church in his small Irish town. I'll stop there.
Okay.
But
All right.
it's going to be made into a movie. I think the movie actually might already be out. It's a pretty small one, but it's starring Cillian Murphy, Peaky Blinders and Oppenheimer. And I'm not quite done. I have a few pages left, but I'm really enjoying it. So very
Cool.
good.
All right.
Yeah.
Favorite local restaurant?
So I live in Smyrna. I'm a huge fan of Mezzaluna in Smyrna. It's an Italian restaurant. I think they have another location as well. But I think as far as Smyrna goes, it's like one of the only places in Smyrna you can kind of get like really good, authentic Italian food. It's very delicious.
I think I had lunch there a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
A favorite guilty pleasure.
Okay, so I actually don't believe in guilty pleasures because I
Okay.
think you should like what you like and not feel guilty about it. It's fine. But I will say the thing that has been taking up so much of my time, I'm a little embarrassed by how much time I'm spending on it, is Survivor. So I only got into Survivor this year, and I think I've watched like from the beginning of the year till now, I probably watched like 10 or 11 seasons. Like it's been a real binging problem. I'm obsessed. So I'll say
There's
Survivor.
like 30 seasons, right?
40, we're on 47 right now. So I'm
Is
able
it
to
that much?
watch.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's very much. Yeah.
So that'll keep you going for a couple more weeks at
Oh
least,
yeah.
right?
Oh yeah. I started my friend who's like a Survivor obsessive gave me a couple of seasons to like get started with that she thought would kind of draw me in, and she was right. She did a good job. And now I'm going back and kind of watching from the beginning. So I've just gonna do all of them.
I've been watching this series called Alone, which is
Yeah, 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 yeah.
it's like a survivalist series, but it's just people are like I totally isolated and they
Yeah.
have to do everything on their on all by themselves. It's not there's no teams or anything.
Oof. Yeah. See, that
Yeah.
would freak me out, I think. I like the social dynamic in Survivor, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
in Alone, they tend to talk to themselves a lot,
I'm sure. That's
which
what
gets
I
a
would
little,
do.
well, then they have all these GoPro cameras all over the place. So they're
Yeah.
just talking to themselves all the time, which gets a little weird. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, favorite local getaway.
Hmm. I don't know if this counts, but my brother-in-law and my sister like to take their kids to Serenbe a lot, like even just for the day. And I've been down with them a couple of times, and it's really great down there. It's really lovely. The town is very cute. They've always got like great events going on. I think they just did like Little Shop of Horrors. I saw Joshua Henry perform there, who's like a really big Broadway guy. They always have really great events. It's really beautiful. So I'll say Serenbe.
I saw a couple years ago, I saw they did Sleepy Hollow
Yeah,
outside at
yeah.
night under the trees.
A
It
lot
was
of
a
good Halloween
great
stuff for
performance.
sure.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah. Um, favorite non-work hobby.
So I started boxing about a year ago. And I think I knew I would like it. I'd done it before, like done the class and stuff, and knew I would like it, but I pretty quickly got a personal trainer, which has been really fun. I really like boxing. It's like, it's fine. It's hard to find like a good exercise for you as an adult, and boxing is fun because it just kind of reminds me of playing sports. It's not like exercising for no reason. Yeah.
That's good to have, the gloves around and for when Keith is really being a
Oh
pain in the
yeah.
ass. When
I
Keith
know.
is really
I'm
misbehaving,
gonna gear it up.
you say, Keith, I'm lacing up here.
Yeah.
Do you really want to sign me that story, Keith?
I'm working on my southpaw now, so watch
There you
out.
go.
But
Um, so obviously I guess that you have entertainment in your blood in your family. Is that what kind
Mhm.
of got you to kind of float into what you're doing now?
Yeah, a little bit, I think so. I've always loved music. We were never like a big movie family, but my parents had like particular movies that they loved. Like my dad loves movie musicals, so that was, I think, kind of a big part of it, like The Sound of Music and the 1961 West Side Story were pretty big in my house, and musical theater in general was pretty big. So I think I had like a little push towards movies maybe, but I more kind of discovered that on my own than I did something like music.
That's cool. So
Mhm.
is there anything we haven't talked about that you want to mention in terms of your work or, groups or organizations that you really like and want to give a shout out to?
Um, let's- Let me think. I'll shout out Audio Video Club. It's like a kind of cool indie film collective. They have kind of like trivia nights and screenings all the time. So if you're kind of an indie filmmaker and you're looking to find a community, I think that's a really great spot. Um, they've got a lot of fun events. And then I guess I'll shout out, I've had a couple of interviews come out recently that I've been pretty proud of. I interviewed Sean Baker, who directed and wrote and edited and did a lot of other things on the movie Anora, which is a pretty big Oscar frontrunner. And I've always been a fan of his work, and he was a really interesting guy to talk to. So yeah, I'll shout those two things out. And you can find that Sean Baker interview on roughdraftatlanta.com.
And I think you can search for your work on the newsletters are kind of there's a directory of archive of the
Yeah.
newsletters, so they're always easy to find, and I'll include the URL to your various things
Yeah, that would be great.
in the show notes, as they say.
Yeah. And I've
Um,
also, I should say this, I've got a Substack newsletter that's separate, which is kind of more of just conglomeration of everything that I think about movies that I don't have time to write about anywhere else. And that is on Substack, and it's called I Have Some Thoughts. So if you Google that with my name, it should pop up.
okay, I'll
Yeah.
find that and include the URL there too.
Yeah.
All right, well, excellent. Well, we've been talking with Sammie Purcell, who is the what would you say, a senior editor? Is that the right title? What
Associate editor.
associate?
Associate, yeah.
Keith, senior editor. Come on, Keith.
Looking for that promotion.
All right, Keith. Just doing the podcast. I mean, only senior editor.
Yeah.
Okay, associate editor, focus on entertainment with Rough Draft, and you can find her work online at on the Rough Draft website and in the Reporter newspapers in
Mhm.
Sandy Springs, Dunwoody, Buckhead, Sandy
Brookhaven.
Brookhaven.
Yeah.
So I always feel like I'm forgetting one.
Yeah.
Maybe because I keep telling Keith, you should add Tucker. Why aren't you doing Tucker?
We have started to do some Tucker stuff. We have a Tucker-based newsletter now, so comes out on Fridays.
There we
Kathy.
go. Okay, Kathy's doing that. Okay, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Sammy, thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
And as always, you can find our archive of journalist spotlights on YouTube or on Spotify, the video version, the audio version, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all those places where you find audio podcasts. You can find our episodes. And as always, if you're looking for our database of Atlanta media, go to leftsatlanta.media.com and sign up, and you'll get access to information that'll connect you with all kinds of Atlanta journalists, plus our Mitch's Media Musings monthly newsletter, which kind of highlights all the interesting things happening in Atlanta's media community. Thank you, Sammy.
Thank you.
All right, so we're able to see you in 2 weeks.